Jihad is an Arabic word that can be translated as a struggle, ability to strive, or the exertion of one's maximum effort to repel the enemy by word or deed. One must also distinguish between a lesser jihad and a greater jihad. The greater jihad, and therefore the more important one, is also called jihad against self, that is, a struggle to subdue one's own ego against evil inclinations and tendencies. It is a spiritual striving to attain nearness to God, and is a lifelong conscious striving incumbent on every Muslim. The lesser jihad is fighting in self-defense against an enemy that has initiated an attack. It is also an effort to confront an enemy who unlawfully evicts one from one's home and encroaches on the freedom of the worship of God. Jihad is not intended to shed blood, encourage disloyalty towards established governments, or disrupt peace in any manner. All such acts are against the teachings of Islam. The Arabic word jihad is derived from the verb jahada, meaning to strive or struggle. In Islamic terminology, it means to make an effort, to endeavor and to strive for a noble cause. The word is generally used to describe any type of striving in the cause of Allah, God. According to Islamic teachings, there are three main types of jihad, and they all seek to establish and promote peace in society, as explained below. Types of jihad. According to Islamic teachings, there are three main categories of jihad. The first is Jihadi Akbar, which is the jihad of the highest order. This is the jihad or struggle for self-reformation. It involves the struggle against our own temptations such as greed, lust, and other worldly desires. Essentially, it's a journey from an animalistic state of existence where one lives for immediate gratification or gain to a state where one's psyche is disciplined enough to exercise moral control. This type of jihad is obligatory on every Muslim throughout their life. The second type is Jihad-e-Kabir, or the major jihad. This is the jihad of propagating the truth, the message of the Quran. The Quran instructs us to spread this message with wisdom, tolerance, and respect for others and their beliefs. For instance, in 16:126 it says, "Call unto the way of thy Lord with wisdom and goodly exhortation." And in 6:109 it advises, "And revile not those whom they call upon beside Allah, lest they out of spite revile Allah in their ignorance. Thus unto every people have we caused their doing to seem fair. Then unto their Lord is their return, and he will inform them of what they used to do." It prohibits the use of any coercion or force, as stated in 2:257. There should be no compulsion in religion. Surely right has become distinct from wrong. So whosoever refuses to be led by those who transgress and believes in Allah has surely grasped a strong handle which knows no breaking, and Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. According to the Quran, anyone who devotes their time, effort, wealth, or knowledge to the cause of righteousness is practicing Jihad-e-Kabir. This is also obligatory on all Muslims. The third type is Jihadi Asgar, which is the jihad of the lower order. This is the jihad of a defensive battle. The Quran has clearly restricted this type of jihad to certain conditions while forbidding transgression of any sort. The battle can only be defensive and not an offensive one. 2:191, "And fight in the cause of Allah against those who fight against you, but do not transgress. Surely Allah loves not the transgressors." Muslims should have faced oppression in the practice of their religion and a threat to their life. Muslims should have been driven out of their homes. The teaching is to initially leave from where the oppression is taking place. And if the oppressor attacks the Muslims, to stop them from practice of their religion in the new abode and also threaten their lives. Only in these circumstances are the Muslims allowed to take up arms in a defensive battle. Further on, there are clear directions in what can and cannot be done in a battle fought by the Muslims. Civilians who are not fighting against Muslims are not to be attacked or killed at all. Crops or other sources of food and water and cattle or other animals are not to be destroyed. Hospitals, orphanages, and other places of safety and refuge are not to be destroyed. Mosques, churches, synagogues, or other places of worship are not to be destroyed. Women, children, old and disabled are to be left untouched. If the aggressor stops the aggression or offers a treaty, it should be accepted and the fighting stopped forthwith. Fleeing oppressors need not be pursued to any unnecessary length and should be allowed to return to their home. Prisoners of war should be treated with respect and their basic needs be fulfilled, and they should be freed or ransomed as soon as possible after the battle. Hence, it is very clear that the purpose of any such battle is still to restore peace, and not to promote aggression. It is important to note that starting of such a battle is not in the hands of the Muslims, but can only be initiated by an oppressor fulfilling the aforementioned conditions. Jihad and the Holy Prophet. Prophet Muhammad's entire life was devoted to jihad. Of this, a mere 4 months approximately was spent by way of defensive battles, and in them the cause and objective is beyond dispute. He spent the first 13 years of prophethood in Makkah striving to spread the message of Quran against intense and fierce oppression, but he never raised a finger in response. He left Makkah for Medina, but the Maccans continued to pursue him in Medina. It was only when they launched a battle to kill Muslims in Medina that a physical battle in self-defense was permitted, and even then only to the extent to preserve their freedom to live in peace and to worship God. Once, while returning from a battle, Prophet Muhammad reminded his followers that they are returning from the jihad of a lower order to jihad of the highest order, that they need to resume the effort of self-reformation without any delay. On another occasion, the Prophet has said that out of all those who carry out jihad, the most exalted is the one who strives against his own passions. Ibn Maya, Kitabul Fitn. Does jihad mean the extermination of all non-Muslims? No. The purpose of jihad is development of a peaceful society through self-reformation of Muslims towards higher standards of righteousness, and spread of the teachings of peace, justice, tolerance, respect of other religions and their followers. Muslims are only permitted to fight in self-defense if they are being attacked for their faith and being prohibited from worshipping God. It is an act of self-defense and not an act of aggression. If the aggressor ceases to fight, then Muslims are obliged to stop as well for the sake of peace. 862. And if they incline towards peace, incline thou also towards it, and put thy trust in Allah. Surely it is He who is all-hearing, all-knowing. The example of the founder of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is a very clear demonstration of this point. After 8 years of exile, and being forced to fight some defensive battles against the oppressors who had the intention of killing the Muslims, including the Prophet himself, and to wipe off the religion of Islam, the Prophet, at the conquest of Makkah, declared a general pardon for all Makkans. They were also granted freedom to continue to practice their own religion. Some of the Makkans were so surprised at this that they did not initially believe it and still fled, including one of their leaders, Ikramah. He was called back by his wife, who reassured him that she had personally met with Prophet Muhammad and confirmed that the pardon was a reality. Ikramah returned, still fearful, but when he realized the facts, he was so impressed that he chose to convert to Islam. In fact, this example is typical of the manner of spread of Islam amongst the non-Muslims during its early history. There are examples of the Muslim army fighting to protect its citizens, including those who were non-Muslims. Testimony to the protection of the right of people of other religions to live and think freely and practice their own religion in an Islamic state has been repeatedly quoted by several Jewish and Christian historians relating to the early centuries of the Muslim states in Spain, Iraq, Arabia, North Africa, and Syria. The promised Messiah has said, "None of the true Muslims who ever lived maintained that force should be employed in the spread of Islam." On the other hand, Islam has always flourished on the strength of its inherent qualities of excellence. Tiryak-ul-Qulub, Ruhani Kazain, volume 15, page 167. Furthermore, it is evident from the Quran that people of different faiths must be free to practice their own religion. Islam does not claim monopoly over salvation or truth. It accepts the truth and authenticity of founders of other divinely revealed religions. It teaches the followers to remain just and respectful towards followers of other religions who can engage in jihad. As far as Jihad-i Akbar, the jihad of self-reformation, a struggle against one's own passions, and Jihad-i Kabir, a struggle in the spread of the word of God, are concerned, they are incumbent on all Muslims throughout their life. Regarding Jihad-i Asghar, The defensive battle to protect the freedom of worship of God, this is only obligatory on the able-bodied adults. Does Islam teach hatred for non-Muslims? No. One of the fundamental teachings of Islam, and one which every Muslim cultivates in his heart, is that of brotherhood and equality of human beings. Since Islam considers the diversity of people and nature as God's creation, respect for diversity is commanded. Especially noted in the Quran are people of the book, namely Jews and Christians, who were always given a special place in Muslim society. Muslims are commanded to safeguard their right to worship and their places of worship, a command that has been historically followed, as is evidenced by the existence of old churches and synagogues throughout the Muslim world in places like Turkey, Palestine, Jordan, Syria, and Bosnia. Contrary to the common stereotype, Islam was not spread by the sword, nor were people forced to convert, a fact again borne out by the existence of non-Muslim populations throughout the Muslim world. This same respect and tolerance was extended to people of other faiths. Muslims believe that the Holy Prophet Muhammad was sent as a mercy for all the worlds, and that he brought a final religion for all humanity. The very first leaf of the Holy Quran praises the Lord, who is the sustainer of all the worlds, and its last passage urges us to pray to the Lord of mankind. Thus, both the first and the last words of the Holy Quran present the concept of the entire universe, and not merely that of a god of the Arabs or the Muslims. Sometimes an impression is created by some people that the Holy Quran says that don't make friends with non-believers. Such references are taken out of context. There is a mention in the Holy Quran about some people who are open and declared enemies of Islam. It is discouraged to make close friends with such people.